Thank you for joining us for the second CLIMAS training session. As probably you know, some of you that participated in the previous session, we in CLIMAS project created this activity of sharing with the audience, interested in climate assemblies and to know more about climate assembly, how to implement them, and how to develop different activities around them. This training series that shows and provides knowledge of how CLIMAS partners develop their activities and share with you their insights. Now, this is the second training activity within the series, and we will talk today about how we engage citizens and deliberating on future climate scenarios. I'm Lucia Krishna. I'm the Managing Director of European Integrated Projects. I'm delighted to be part of this great project and great consortium. And I would like to invite my colleague Floridea Di Ciomo, who is the technical coordinator of the project, to present the project. And while we are doing this, Yolanda is preparing the presentation. I have to say a few words about you, Floridea. You are the director of Cambiamo, yes, and you are an NGO. Cambiamo is an NGO and UN Framework Climate Change Conference observer. You are based in Spain. We are working together in many projects, and I'm delighted to know you as colleague and friend, and of course your experience in different projects, and especially in climate and just transition projects. I think it's amazing. So I look forward to have your presentation and introduction to CLIMAS project to the audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucia, for this very nice presentation. And I'm happy to introduce the CLIMAS project and the approach and methods. We can go on the next slide, please. What is the CLIMAS project initiated with the needs of making more open and the citizen assemblies. Actually, what we discover through an analysis of the previous European citizen assemblies was that they started to produce contents and recommendation for governments, for regional authorities, for national, regional, and local authorities, but still they were not so inclusive in respect to the target groups like women and girls in all their diversities, and as well migrants and people with a different origin, ethnic origin. And so this was a first point. And the second point is that we find that the citizen assemblies is a huge tool of making the participation more inclusive, and that it's not just the participation for the we can say for a consultation, but as well for deliberation. And when we shift from a consultation to a deliberative participation, we shift. There is as well a kind of a shift of power. So this means that the recommendations building up in the citizen assemblies are recommendations that can be directly used by the policymakers for defining, for implementing their policies in climate change. Why we started with climate change? Actually, the citizen assembly started on other subjects, societal subjects, like the abortion in Ireland, for example. But and this is a very they were very useful for defining afterwards to test the feedback of the society, where the society is. And in climate change as well, we need to understand where the society is and what the society can provide for going ahead. Next slide, please. The CLIMAS project is based on this participatory by itself tools that is this design thinking and value-based approach. This means that everything that is produced, like the toolbox, is co-created within the Living Labs. And today, I think that we have a great example from the Living Lab side from Chios and the other Living Labs. And then everything is, first of all, defining, the first step is to build empathy among the participants on the in this framework of the deliberative democracy. Second step is to define the problem. So which is the problem that in climate change we need to face. And the third one is to ideate the engagement tool. So in some way we went through this and then to prototype. All these steps are in the Living Labs. Then the testing of these steps that are related to the toolbox of the CLIMAS project, I think that my colleagues afterwards, they will explain more, will be tested in the climate assemblies. And then we have a kind of recalibration in the laboratory for finally to have the final tools for to be scaling up out of the CLIMAS project. Next slide, please. Stakeholder engagement. Actually, we really, like I said, we had the broad target groups in the co-creating tools from early phases to final testing. And these groups is including EU region and all the persons with the different capacities and different physical, cognitive, sensorial condition, socioeconomic and education levels. Because this was really the genesis of the project of CLIMAS, to try to involve all on board. We are, for the climate change, we really need to be resilient all, otherwise the society is not resilient for all. The next slide, please. So from the citizen deliberation to recommendations, like I said at the beginning, this is the tools for defining the, for shifting from is away from the consultation to the recommendation. And I would like to remind the right to participate in climate decision making that has been reaffirmed as a human right through the Action Climate Empowerment of the United Nations Framework Climate Change a conference agenda. And this is the climate assemblies are doing an incredible work to hold local and national authorities accountable to focus on their commitment on the needs of the citizens. So this is that citizens are coming out with their rights to participate with the recommendation, and the governments are taking this participation, the decision of this participation. Next slide, please. Where is the citizen recommendations? Actually, there is like 3 different forms of getting in climate change policies the citizen. One is the political incidents that is most of the time done by NGO. The second one is the advocacy that is done by members of the NGO. And the third one is the climate assemblies through a bottom-up process of the recommendation definition. And this is a very legitimate way to enter in the governance of the climate change. What we have in the different climate assemblies, We have a phase of information, individual collective empowerment. People are sit together, are working together during 5-6 days. There is table of deliberation. They are deliberating together. And in this context, of course, we have a key role for the facilitators that as well, we need the professional facilitators and with an inclusive perspective that they are able to bring on all the feeling, all the sensitiveness, all the knowledge, local knowledge, indigenous knowledge there for the recommendation. Next slide, please. And this is a little bit an overview of our brilliant assemblies in CLIMAS project. The Catalan one, that was the first one at the regional level with 100 participants, 2 ministry involved, and with the result of 48 recommendations in three main focus areas. One is the climate change in general, but then the assemblies was split into with the agri-food system and the energy transition. So the recommendation were very tackling these three aspects, the agri-food in respect to climate change and the energy transition in respect to climate change. Next slide, please. The second assemblies was a rural case in Germany by Edermunde, where it was related to the land use, and this is like a key issues that is for the agriculture point of view, for the housing point of view, and this of course this assemblies was a little bit smaller with the 30 citizens, but we came out with the 16 recommendation behind the 4 principles. Next slide, please. And then we added our really CLIMAS baby, and know that somebody will talk more about that after me. That is the Riga climate assemblies, because this is the assemblies that was completely built up in the CLIMAS project, and it was with an amazing results as well. With the facilitators had the possibility to be trained with an inclusive training facilitation module. There were these assemblies was we had an amazing rate of attendance, like 95% of the citizens that for 6 days they went to the assemblies. And to discuss and to produce the 41 recommendation for the Riga city greening plan for next 2027-2031. Next slide, please. So the methodology that we have behind is really about the focus on the dilemmas. The idea is really to go with and to go with a kind of to show the impacts that the policy have, and this way to provide to the citizen the possibility to better framing their recommendations. Next slide, please. This is a little bit about the dilemmas, how it is framed a dilemma. For example, how to meet a decarbonized system by 2050. It's a little bit too broad, so we need to go a little bit in a deep and dive. And for example, we need to go to define the barriers that are related to that, and to be concrete. So the concreteness and the impacts, showing the concreteness in the impacts in the dilemma is it can help the people to better decide and frame the recommendation. Next slide. With that, I think that I will. This is a little bit a dilemma that how can be framed in some way, a dilemmatic question, we can say. Next slide, please. And this is as well the future scenario building tool test that was tested in Edermunde, but I think that my colleague from the VUB, Ava, will show more information about that. And this is as well a tool that was co-created within the living labs in CLIMAS and tested in Netherlands. Next slide, please. And this is just the for finalize that we have, we try now to export, to upscale our citizen assemblies in other domain, and as well abroad in a global way. So we are working with the UNFCCC Secretariat for organizing people global assemblies within the negotiation of the climate change. And this is just a poster that was presented, a scientific article presented in the climate change conference, American Climate Change Conference, on how to bridge science and decision making for empowering voices for climate action through this deliberative process. And here we compared the climate assemblies in Puerto Rico and the climate assemblies in Catalonia, and was very nice comparison because even if the process was different, the results were very similar. So thank you very much, and I apologize if I took too much time, and I leave the floor to Lucia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Florida. Does matter. It's very interesting what you are saying. So it's important to listen about the project. And for me, even I'm part of it, it's always a pleasure to listen about its success and achievements. Now, allow me to introduce you my colleague Julia Vincents from Eurocat in Spain, who together with his team in Eurocat developed a tool, if I'm correct, Julia, is citizen science tool. So I invite you to present your experience in CLIMAS. If you are on. Julia? Perfect. And I would like you to put the camera on too.
Hello, just a second.
Brilliant.
Okay.
So while you put this one, I say a few words about you. So you are the head of computational social sciences research in Eurocat's data science and big data unit. You have you are also an associate professor in data science and Universitat de Catalunya. And in complex systems at University of Barcelona. I think you are in a great position to develop such tools, and I think with your team I experience a lot of nice let's say insights during the project, and I hope the participants will also be inspired by your work. The microphone is yours.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me well? Yeah?
Very well.
Okay, perfect. So, well, thanks, Lucia, and thanks also for people that is attending to this session. So today here, after the presentation of Florida, I think we will go a little bit in depth in different parts that we have been developing during CLIMAS, from my side, I will explain a little bit how we have introduced citizen science in climate assemblies in the project, but also how we have developed a toolkit that goes a little bit even beyond our climate assemblies and can be used for other deliberative processes, but also other participatory processes that have some impact in policies. So what I will present here is this toolkit that basically help or provide resources for organizations, communities, and participants from climate assemblies that have interest to introduce citizen science. This is basically scientific evidence in the process, in the deliberative process, in this participatory process. Okay, so with the toolkit I will present, the idea is give some insights about what is citizen science for the people that don't know about what citizen science is. Provide some examples of projects Okay, provide some examples of projects and how to use it in climate assemblies. So citizen science, sometimes there is a disalignment, let's say, between the policies that take place and the decisions that take place at policy level, let's say, and the evidence that the scientific evidence or the evidence that are provided to make decisions. Based on scientific insights, for instance. No? So citizen science is a nice tool, a nice domain in which not only scientists, but also citizens can provide with this evidence and can help to make decisions at policy level more based on evidence. So here what we try to do is align citizen science with a deliberative process, with a policy process, which is the climate assembly. For doing this, we have co-developed and co-create the toolkit in Living Labs. And also we have tested this toolkit in Living Labs, but also in climate assemblies. And here what we present basically is all the content, well, part of the content actually that this toolkit have. In the toolkit, you can find what climate assembly is, so a little bit of context, how we can use citizen science for climate action, how citizen science can fit in climate assemblies, the benefits, the challenges, the topics that are covered by citizen science projects. Citizen science is not covering all topics, but cover a lot of topics that have influence in climate adaptation and climate mitigation too. We present also in the toolkit all the co-creation process and the value proposition that born in this process. We provide also a lot of projects, a lot of examples of projects that can be introduced in a way or in one way or the other in climate assemblies. And also we provide guidelines for introducing citizen science in climate assemblies. These guidelines are more practical guidelines, let's say, are super practical in the sense that we talk about how we can implement citizen science, how we can prepare citizen science activity in climate assemblies, which kind of stakeholders we can incorporate in the process of creating these activities, and how to use citizen science in different phases of the climate assembly. Okay, I will go through some of these aspects, only some of them. But first of all, just to give for the people that is new in the or doesn't know the concept of citizen science, but it's quite easy, it's quite simple. Citizen science is a collaborative research paradigm that engages the public, the general public, non-specialists, so people that have that doesn't have a very deep knowledge about an issue, so they are not professional scientists in a scientific project. In a scientific project, in a scientific process, okay? So the idea is that people participate in different aspects of the scientific process, getting data, analyzing data, creating scientific papers, reports, and so on and so forth. So in different phases, even designing the scientific research, etc. Okay, so in the toolkit, you can find a little bit of the definition, some examples. And citizen science cover a lot of topics. Okay, here are the 12 topics that we have been classifying the projects that we are introducing in the toolkit. Okay, that are related obviously with climate adaptation, okay, because there is also other fields that maybe are not related with climate adaptation but are covered by citizen science. So here only focus on the things that are related with climate adaptation, which is climate monitoring, biodiversity, so typical citizen science project in collecting data about birds, mosquitoes, and so on, coastal and marine ecosystems, air quality, which is also a typical citizen science project, water management, energy, agriculture and food systems, green infrastructures, sustainable mobility. These two are very related actually, because sometimes these green infrastructures also are related with mobility, with sustainable mobility, active mobility, and so on. Public health, disaster preparedness and response. They are very famous citizen science project in this area, disaster preparedness, in which people, the collective intelligence of people contribute with information where the public institutions are not possible to reach because of the disaster, etc. No? And another one that is super important, which is social science. So citizen science is close now for social science. This is not the typical domain in which citizen science is participating, but in the recent years, it has been boosting a lot the what is called citizen social science. We provide more than 34 citizen science projects in the toolkit, covering all these aspects, okay? Covering all these topics. Here we have an example of one of them. For instance, in sustainable mobility, we define a little bit the impact of sustainable mobility, or, well, how this topic is related with climate adaptation, with climate actions, how we can combine the participation of citizens in projects about sustainable mobility. And we provide, for instance, here 3 projects that are related with that, okay? Cycle AI, OpenStream Match Mobility Project, and BCCen. For instance, in the case of BCCen, just to give an example, no, because as I said, we have a lot of projects, but just to give an example, in the toolkit, you can find this information about the project, which is basically what the project is doing. In this case, is collecting data about active mobility, in particularly micromobility, bike sharing systems, and so on, bike lanes, etc. So about safety, about accessibility, so different aspects of mobility, which is the problem that this citizen science project address, the SDGs that is related with, the relevance of this project for climate action, real world pilots, so real world pilots in which this project has been doing something, no, has been applied, how it works, very briefly how it works, and the main contacts of this project, okay, the institutions that are behind this project and can help you if you are organizing a citizen assembly, or you want to use this project and you want to solve doubts, or you want to do something more in depth with this project, you can contact with them. Also, we provide reference, scientific reference reports, and so on, and also other related projects similar to this, okay? Because maybe in your community, in your city, you have another project that is more similar to this, so maybe it's interesting to add this project to, so use another project that is similar, that is a sibling project or sister project, okay? Another thing that it's important that we highlight a lot in our toolkit is how we participate, the levels of participation. So the participation can be passive participation, so people contribute with data, to collaborative co-creation, to collaborative creation, which is co-creation, where the people participate more in depth in the project. We encourage always to promote that the citizen science is centered more in the community level, in the grassroots, so in the level 4, level 3. But sometimes some projects are more in this more passive participation, and we have to, let's say, map all the existing thing. So this is another thing that you can find also in the project. And then also we provide these guidelines. As I said before, these guidelines help to create activities in the framework climate assemblies, okay? For instance, how to use climate assemblies across all phases how to use citizen science across all phases of climate assemblies. Well, we provide some examples, how to use climate citizen science in the framing phase, in the learning phase, in the recommendation and deliberation phase, and also in the follow-up of the climate assembly. And we are doing that with 2 illustrative examples, one focus on air quality and another focus on sustainable mobility. And also we provide an example of a journey of a citizen science project on air quality, in this case, across all the phases of the climate assembly. Okay, it's just a theoretical approach, because usually you will use citizen science in one of the parts or in 2 of the parts, but maybe you have potential to use it across all the phases of climate assembly, and we provide an example of that. So just to finalize, what we provide in the toolkit, what you can find first is background. So background about citizen science and climate assembly, to give a little bit of context. You will find a collection of citizen science projects. In total, you can find in the toolkit around more than actually 50 citizen science projects that covers 12 knowledge domain that I mentioned before. Also, you can find guidelines for introducing citizen science in climate assemblies, but also these guidelines are extensible to other participatory processes to other activities, even school activities or etc. So you can use this information for other areas. And finally, also you can find specific information, the case studies, which is the testing that we have been deployed in the climate assemblies in CLIMAS, that now I think my colleagues will explain a little bit more about one of them. So that's well, you can find the Citizen Science Toolkit with this QR. So it's open and you can take a look. And that's all from my side. Thank you so much.
Many thanks, Julia. Very interesting as always. Your presentation. I'm always fascinated about the work you are doing, but I'm not taking any questions at this moment. I would like Ingrida to present how in Riga they implemented the climate assembly and how they use the citizen assembly, the citizen science tool, and then we can take questions. So while Yolanda prepares the presentation, I can tell that Ingrida is a dear friend from Latvia, from Riga. She is representing the Green Liberty, an NGO working with climate justice and inclusive citizen participation. She is the proud, let's say, implementer of the first climate assembly in Riga, in Latvia, in fact. Ingrida, the microphone is yours.
Thank you, Lucia. Hello, everyone, and yeah, I'm happy to share shortly our experience with the Riga Citizen Climate Assembly, but mainly with the emphasis on how did we use the citizen science tool in our assembly. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. And short summary of to understand the context. So this was the first citizen climate assembly in Latvia, and it took rather many challenges to overcome, but actually this happened, and we are very proud that we were one of those pioneers in Latvia. And I would like to mention here as well that we were happy to be inspired not by CLIMAS partners who supported us all through the process, but also regarding the Baltic context. We were inspired and supported by Estonian Assembly, who had already several assemblies run before us. And now I'm happy that we are inspiring the Lithuanian assemblies. And just yesterday, I had a training with the facilitators of Lithuanian assembly who will have their kickoff also in this September in few weeks. So they've been inspired by us. We've been inspired by Estonians. So the Baltic process has been activated. So yeah, we had the assembly ran 8 weeks, end of September and by end of the November last year. In total, we had, with a very small dropout from 35 to 34, we had 34 participants all through 5 Saturday sessions. We had 8 experts who covered the topic of our assembly. That was the greening of Riga, and yeah, and we developed in total 50 recommendations that went for final vote, and 41 of them were submitted to Riga City Council. And yeah, just to a little bit to more specify, we worked particularly for Riga City Greening Plan 2027-2031, meaning that the recommendations were welcomed by the City Council and are into the process now to be considered to what extent and which ones will be included in this Riga Greening Plan to be drafted by the end of this year and adapted in next year. So with that saying, it will be the first this kind of citizen deliberative method usage in the policy document. We can go to the next slide. So yeah, my colleague Julian already explained deeply the citizen science, but this is very brief, and this is what we really implemented in our case. that we explored the nature around us and with our general public participants, and we were supported by the professional scientists, biologists in our case. So yeah, we can go to the next slide. And here, yeah, we started our assembly in a very beautiful September day in a very beautiful surrounding, but with with the strangers. All 34 participants, who is the general public, mini public of Riga, came together for the first time, and of course it was a challenge and scare for everybody. What is going to happen? What will be expected? And therefore, the citizen science fieldwork and exercise outdoor actually jumped in a very good time, and it helped a lot for us to build a further relationship also with the participants. From one side, there is this method and tool, what stands behind the citizen science, but it actually gave also the side effect of people really getting involved into something, into nature. We can show the next slide a little bit, so you can see. Yeah, and I will not tell you in detail what we did, but we did shortly. We had an exercise. We splitted people in groups, and they actually went out with the specific tasks to observe and to do in nature. And the final spot where everybody ended, each group ended, was together with a biologist. We did explore the grass, which in the beginning seemed like who would like to explore a simple grass, but actually it turned out to be the most interesting experience for all the participants, who had a task to find those 5 different plants in this simple grass square meter, and many questions raised, many interests raised, and it actually raised the discussion and gave the basis for why we are actually here. If we are talking about climate, so we talk about climate, but we talk also with actually understanding what is nature, and not just by looking outside the nature window. We can go to the next slide, and I will tell you, yeah, the essence, what we took from using this exercise into our assembly process. Yeah, we started, as I mentioned, in the teams. Each team received the template, what they have to do, what they have to go observe, notice, and discover. Yes, and that the first thing is that they really had to observe the nature, but also they had to start communication with one another. And it was so it was a soft icebreaker for everybody in each of the teams. And the last part led by expert was absolutely interesting for people. We did not believe that it can be so interesting, that the biologist experts sitting in the grass and showing those different plants in the square meter brings so much questions, knowledge, and interest to people. Afterwards, when we finished this 1.5 hour outdoors, we went back to the assembly venue, and then it was followed by the expert presentation of urban meadows. And but that we had this exercise before with being actually in nature and observing was very beneficial, because the questions that came from participants after this exercise, they were already like more with bigger and deeper understanding of the nature. And we can go to the next slide. So yeah, but even if the method in the beginning seemed that it can be difficult and it's not so easy, how do you get 35 people outside? And it seemed many challenges here, but by selecting really good place of venue, and okay, by having a good weather outside, but it could be also solutions if it's not so good weather outside. We really managed to have this very good hands-on exercise, that, and also the vibes, like the team building vibes for the future and further discussion of climate issues. And this, which is also very important, that maybe it would be different if we do it on the second session of assembly. We did on the first day, and in the afternoon of the first session, and it really was very, very helpful icebreaker for the participants and for the trust building to one another, to us as an organizers, and to the whole process. And that we also, which is very important, was that we actually devoted an agenda time for the true observation, for true noticing what is the environment, by saying that not just we want to protect the nature, we want to fight the climate change, we want to find solutions, but we actually understand what we talk about. And the surveys after the citizen science exercise showed amazing responses, that all through the assembly this was one of the most favorite activities that participants reported, and they actually wanted more, and they wanted more such kind of activities included in the agenda. And here it is really that comes in hand with with the with the element that it's very difficult if participants, usually it's like 4 to 6 sessions, are sitting for 8 hours just in one room and sitting by the table and speaking about whatever issue is for the assembly. But in this case, it was very positive that we were out, we changed the environment, and we did something. We used the learning method of different kind, not just paper and table. So yeah, what is my next slide? Yeah, my next slide is thanks. But it was a short overview of our experience. And if we ever do assembly again, and I hope we do, we definitely would like to use citizen science exercise include in our agenda. And I truly believe that that's something that is worth, and that is very important not to forget that people do not actually spend so much time outside and in nature, and sometimes we do not really know what we are protecting if we do not understand. So yeah, citizen science observation and accompanied by the expert is very worthy exercise. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ingrid. Very interesting, and I like how Florida called you on the baby Riga Climate Assembly, the baby of CLIMAS. So I will I will use it from now on. So can I invite you, Ingrid, Florida, and Julia, to put the cameras on and the microphones on, and let's have a quick chat. I don't see any question from the audience, but I have prepared some for you. So I'm happy if any of you will reply. From the beginning of the project, it was clearly that the number of tools that we are developing we developed in CLIMAS project were very important. To what extent is citizen science that is truly rooted in citizens' views, expectations, and needs, and experiences, it's a good, let's say, tool to be used in a climate assembly. Please give me your views, and how would you like to develop this tool in the future?
I can jump in. So, well, in general, I think citizen science is can be used in a very different ways. Can be used from extractivist point of view. So you can use citizens, for your own benefit, like collecting data, for instance, or can be used in as a way actually to do activism in the other extreme, using grassroots movements, using community-based initiative, etc. No, so there is super broad the fields, the ways to use it. the idea in the context of climate assemblies, so citizen science and some of the projects can be very close to policies, no? Because if you collect information about air quality and you can detect a problem in air quality in your city or in your neighborhood, and then you can go with this evidence to the public authority that maybe they are collecting another data that is not aligned because they are collecting data in backgrounds or, not in the traffic, where the traffic sources are, etc. No? So citizen science in general is a tool well used, okay, and for a particular case, etc., that can help a lot in general to provide evidence and to make decision based on data and so, no? And in this context, climate assemblies and deliberative process where people participate, etc., is like a perfect match, no? Because you have people that is making decisions or try to do recommendations, let's say, no? And give information about different sources and sometimes see the data or experience, the experiential knowledge that you can have, for instance, walking around the green infrastructure in your city, in the case of Riga, no, and see if there is a lack of green infrastructure or not, etc., can provide like quite this experiential knowledge that I think is super useful in the context of climate assemblies, but in the context of whatever decision making process that you are carrying out.
Thank you. Ingrida, Floridea, would you like to? Yeah.
Yeah, from a more theoretical perspective, I think that, and as well the practical perspective, I think that it's a real a tool for approaching citizens to the climate change issues in an active way, I will say, not only activist way, but in an active way. And this is make them as well more involved in the questions. I mean, I was observing different climate assemblies, and I see that when they are sit on the table with the papers, like Ingrida said, they are more. It's more easy that they are thinking that why I'm here. And then when they are involved in another space, in a nature space, and as well when the things are going through their bodies, we can say, of course, the chips change completely. So I think that it is really an important tool, and that we can still explore more for and use easily in all the kind of participatory framework. Of course, the citizen assemblies is very is the framework, but as well in other frameworks. So yeah.
In a way, both your comments and are replying to Sonia, as you can see in the question that she put. Thank you, Sonia, for joining us again today. That last week, Pablo from Barcelona, from Catalonia, presented the process and said that the experts should be involved within the climate assembly with their science, and to what extent do you agree that citizen science experiments should be also part of the entire process? And I think this is better for Julia to reply, and then I would like to read them to
Yeah,
say.
I agree with this comment about from Pablo, because yeah, so sometimes the scientific part of the knowledge part is in only one phase of the assembly that happens one day, for instance, and then during the other days, a lot of discussions, doubts, etc., emerge from citizens. And then you need to have someone that try to solve these questions in life, not just with documentation and so on. So I think this is super important in general, because then if not, the message is quite, it's not clear. About citizen, so which is the role of citizen science in all of this? Well, I think also that the case that Ingrid has mentioned, I think it's a super clear, good example. That citizen science, even this knowledge is coming from it's bottom up, comes from citizens, etc. I think it's super important to be always with the scientists, with the professional scientists, with the expert, let's say, that is behind this project, for instance, to be because of this, because sometimes some doubts appear, how to use this, how I interpret this thing, etc. But the approach is a little bit so. I mean, we all have biases. Scientists has biases, etc. And it's important to establish this discussion, this discussion between scientists and citizens, and if you are collecting data, you are discussing about that, etc. Maybe everyone has an experiential knowledge about some things, some things. Because in my street we have this problem, and in my country the other one, etc. So I think the role of the professional, let's say the professional scientist or the technician, etc. It's important. So, and it's the combination between citizen, because sometimes when we think about citizen science, we think that there is no data quality, or there is no a professional knowledge, because it's only amateurism. And it's not only amateurism, and have these two things together, the professional and the non-professional, I think is super important also for enriching discussions, because there is another point of view.
Yeah, thank you. Very, very interesting, and I hope Sonia is satisfied with the reply. But I want close this part of the training before asking Ingrida to what extent, if you are about to start another climate assembly tomorrow, how will you incorporate this citizen science? What did you learn from the previous one, and what would you do differently now? How much will you incorporate, when, and how, basically?
Yeah, if we do assembly tomorrow, we definitely would use citizen science exercise again in the nature. But I think like in our case this time it was that we spoiled the participants from the first session, and they kept asking, we want more. So we gave them on one session a forest therapy exercise indoors, but they were not very happy because they actually wanted to go outside and be in the nature, but it's a logistic wise. So I think to really it would take better planning, but we would do some kind of outdoor exercise twice within 5 Saturdays. But that would take planning. But we would like to do it again.
Right. I would like to thank you all very, very much for your insights in this tool, and especially to Julia and to Ingrida, because she's the implementer. Florida, please stay with us, but we'll go in if you have time. But we'll go in the second part of this training, where we go to another tool or tools, if I'm allowed to say, developed by our colleagues in university from Free University from Brussels. Hava, I invite you to present your tools, the scenario prioritization and the future scenario building tool. Yeah. And then while you prepare, or Yolanda prepares the presentation for you, I introduce you as a researcher, a Smith, within the Free University from Brussels. You are specialized in digital inclusion and citizen engagement. And you have developed these tools that you will present now within CLIMAS. So the microphone is yours, Hava, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Lucia, for inviting me for this informative and interesting training session. As you said, in this project, we developed two citizen engagement tools, one about future scenario building, and the other one scenario prioritization tool. What were the main reason behind working on this participatory tools is that climate policies often address surface level symptoms and act on what is visible, but the transformative potential for addressing climate change, we believe that lie deeper in social structures, cultural structures. And the second point is that citizen is about the citizen contributions, especially from marginalized group, the ones their voice unheard. And we know that while expert policymakers and institutional actors are working very hard, we appreciate it, but it's clear that their actions alone are not enough. And to address this concern, we need to think on more inclusive approach that consider a full range of perspectives, opinions, and involve more life experiences, and to have more general and feasible policies in this specific domain for future. And the main motivation behind the developing this participatory, or as you said, it's an engagement tool in this project, is there to respond these gaps between the citizens and policy makers. And in our participatory method, we tried not only include a diverse range of citizens, but also center this group of people in the process of the decision making. And so we decided to design the methods in a way that facilitate inclusion and creativity and collaboration, and how and help people to think more about the future of their society, the communities, and how they want to be. And one of the questions that you might have, why scenario building, why this participatory foresight tool? First, because this tool give us a language to explore futures, and it helps us also to create help the communities. All the people are using this tool to create a safe space for citizens, for the people we invited to this process, to think strategically and create their own imagination and their vision of the society, of the community for future. And also it helps us to fill the gap between the expert citizens and between the strategy and action. And this tool is for creating planning and a constructive dialogue. So it will help us to how to encourage this type of thinking and involving the general public in the decision-making process. And through this scenario building workshop, we don't aim to predict futures. We just want to create a more actionable, plausible pathways for future. So we should keep in mind that they are not a prediction, and we are not going to predict the future. And in this page, you see the framework we have developed. As you see, it's more than a set of tools, it's a process, and it helps us communities to co-create the visions of future, and then help them to prioritize the scenario through the structure and deliberated methods like multi-criteria decision-making tools. And the framework integrates scenario creation with the evaluation and prioritization to ensure that the generated scenarios can be compared, can be assessed and scaled in a practical manner. The whole process, scenario building process, as a first tool, includes 4 main phases: preparation phase, critic phase, future envisioning or imaginary phase, and finally the evaluation phase. And in the preparation and planning phase is the first phase, which happened before for setting, organizing the workshop, is the kind of setting up the stand by preparing all the relevant materials and all the steps need to be taken to have a successful future scenario building workshop, such as defining relevant stakeholder and from a diverse group of people, society, and then planning a clear agenda, timeline for all the process, and establish a dedicated team to lead all the process. We need to train the facilitator before the organizing the workshop to ensure that all the process will go well, and they could lead each step of the framework. And we need to inform the participants of the workshop what is the main goal, what will happen all the workshop, and to include them and also have their own knowledge in all the steps, and to avoid any kind of confusion about the steps and all the process. And the other things, such as defining the scope of the workshops, such as preparing the relevant questions for each phase of the workshop, what are the main focus of the workshops, and the other relevant materials and steps to be taken in this phase. If you are interested, you can find more details about the preparation phase in our report. And then we have the workshop, which include 3 main phases: identifying key drivers, future scenario envisioning, and scenario evaluation as a core scenario building structure. And in the identifying key driver of change, in our case, which is about climate change, we use the STEP technique framework, which are influential factors that should be considered in this phase, such as political factors, social factors, cultural factors, and technical factors that are important and more effective than the other factors, and also can affect on the climate policies. And then we have the scenario envisioning phase. In this phase, we expect to have finally 4 to 5 main scenarios should be created by the participants of the workshop, and by combining the projection of the key driver, which defined in the previous step, and scenario evaluation, which happened after the scenario creation, and participant in this phase with the help of the trained facilitators try to define their own criteria to assess and evaluate each scenarios, and this to finally have the main 4 to 5 main scenarios, and also a very well defined and narrated evaluation criteria, which will help us to assess the scenario based on them, such as the criteria we developed by the participant in our workshop in Vilnius and also in Chios, are about the feasibility, about how the scenario is actionable, cost effectiveness, and other relevant criteria, which is important and be identified by the workshop participant. And another thing we should keep in mind that imagination is the whole essence of this process, but we should keep in mind that we should generate the scenarios that are plausible and actionable for the future, not a dream about the future. And then after the scenario generation and applying this tool in the workshop, we have to translate the scenarios into the strategic way. And for this step, we use the multi-criteria decision-making tool, and we have used AHP for this as a multi-criteria decision-making tool to prioritize and evaluate scenarios to find the most important and actionable scenario. We should keep in mind that all this process should be done by the participants, and the role of the facilitator is just leading all the process. And a tool for scenario prioritization, as I said, we use the AHP. You might know about multi-criteria decision-making tool. These are tools to narrow the focus in research for new scenarios and provide answer for following question: which scenario or which focus will provide the most opportunities, which scenario should receive primary attention. And by applying this structure way, we can find one of the scenario is the most important, which criteria is very important, and how to evaluate scenario against each other by considering the corresponding criteria. And also here, why we use AHPA as a multi-criteria decision-making tool, because it helps us to save the time, and also is a structure and very simple way for the decision making, and also analyze the final decisions and final scenarios to find the best one for the action. And also you can see here the example of scenario generated by the participant of the workshop in Vilnius. And all, I should insist, all the scenarios be generated by the citizens, and that's the main and the core of this all the process and of scenario building to scenario prioritization. Thank you for your attention. And Lucia?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Very interesting presentation. And I hope the participants, you know, were very curious how the tool has been implemented. And I'm glad that you provided the info about Vilnius. But I would like to invite Sandy too to provide some information about Chios, you know, how this co-creation of the scenario tools has been done in Chios. So yes, Sandy, if you can put your camera on too, will be great. And while you do it, I'll introduce you as an physicist with a PhD in University National and Capodistrian University of Athens. And she works as a researcher at the University of the Aegean and the Institute of the Environmental Research and Sustainable Development of National Observatory of Athens. You have done this tool and implemented this tool and the co-creation of them in CLIMAS project, and also you have contributed, which is very interesting, and we find out probably more about the design and the evaluation of the citizens' engagement methodologies. Again, very, very interesting part of your work in CLIMAS. So I'll stop my microphone, so please, Sandy, it is now yours.
Thank you, Lucia. Today I will present to you the insights from the co-creation workshop that we organized in Chios Living Lab in Greece about 2 years ago. So the aim of this workshop was to apply the future scenario building methodology that my colleague Hava presented previously. The Chios Living Lab is under the umbrella of the University of the Aegean. Chios is one of the 5 biggest islands in Greece, and it is located at the northern Aegean Sea. During this workshop, what the participants had to do was to identify the key factors that facilitated the process and contributed to the development of the scenarios, and then to analyze the resulting scenarios in relation to local environmental conditions, societal needs, and climate-related vulnerabilities. The methodological framework that we followed as organizers of this workshop was the one that Hava had prepared, and her team had prepared the guidelines for this tool. At the beginning, we spent a lot of time for the preparation of the facilitation team and the recruitment of the participants. After that, during the workshop, we started with the description of the methodology and the way that the identification of the key drivers will be made. At the end of this session, we end up with a list of many key drivers. Participants were split in 3 smaller groups. And actually, if I remember, we end up with 20 key drivers. At the plenary, we discussed a lot and negotiate in order to end up with a final list of the most important ones that helped us afterwards to frame the scenarios based on morphological matrix. These scenarios were discussed a lot, and then a list of criteria was suggested by the participants of the workshop in order to evaluate and rank these scenarios. To help the whole process, as facilitators, we asked questions to start up the deliberation. For the introduction and the ice breaking, the question was, have you ever experienced any extreme events that made you think about the importance of building a climate resilient society? And this helped a lot the participants to learn each other and familiarize themselves with this process, with the workshop. In order to identify the key drivers, we asked them to think which factors are crucial in order a society to be resilient to climate change. And then for the scenario envisioning, the time horizon that was set was until 2050, and we asked them to think globally, of course, including local insights in their thoughts. And the question was, how could you imagine a resilient future in the area of climate change? The feedback we received was that setting these 3 questions helped them a lot in order to start talking with each other. For the brainstorming section about the key drivers, we followed the STEEP framework. So we asked them to think of key drivers regarding the social, the technological, the economic, environmental, political problems of the area. And then the selected key drivers of each group were written at post-it, and a morphological box like the one you can see here was created by adding two or three key drivers for each scenarios. These key drivers were organized together in order to end up with the scenarios. I will not explain you a lot the scenarios, just to give you an idea of what was important for the participants in Chios. So at the scenario 1, we discussed a lot about the integration of tradition and innovation for the ecosystem's protection. In Chios, the past decade, we faced many fires, and finally, almost 1/4 of the island is burned. So there were participants from the agriculture sector, as well for the civil protection in the participants. So they suggested some traditional practices and some innovative methodologies. We also discussed about water resource management, because Chios is an island and the tap water is not potable, so we usually face many problems with water scarcity. The scenario 2 was about smart agriculture, and through this scenario, efficient resource use and climate-friendly food production through a synergy of technology, knowledge, and policy was suggested. The third scenario was focused more on tourism, the fourth one on the centralized policy and innovation, and the fifth one on the grassroots of sustainability and social transformation. Bottom-up movement were suggested in order to foster sustainability through education, inclusive governance, and community engagement. So after the end of this workshop, we discussed a lot with the participants, the facilitators of this, and we end up with some critical success factors for the future application of the scenario building methodology. The detailed preparation was proved to be very important. Our team organized many internal meetings with the facilitators, the keynoters, the people that were there in order to help the procedure, the techniques as well. So everybody knew exactly what to do during that day. Another part that was very important was to translate all the materials that were provided from the VUB in a clear language, and of course all the materials were translated with the thought to be really acceptable, understandable by the participants. We tried a lot in order to achieve inclusive participation. We discussed a lot with the local authorities about the participatory activities that had already been organized in Chios, and realized that the same people participate again and again. What we wanted to do was to initiate more actors and people in order to start participating at the Chios Living Lab. For this reason, we decided to contact in person or by telephone many people from with different backgrounds in Chios and activate them in order to come to the workshop. I'm really proud for this procedure, and I would say that we achieved this because other two or three workshops were organized in Chios Living Lab after this one, and the participation was exciting. The people decided to come again. They said to us that they were inspired by the discussions. The methodology seemed to them a bit confusing at the beginning, but at the end they end up with very beautiful ideas. Of course, at the beginning of the workshop, the purpose of it and the link to the policy impact was clarified in order to help them understand what is the reason for this workshop. I would say that the facilitation was effective. We received very good feedback on that. And the methodological transparency and efficient time management. What was proposed by the VUB team was that, if I remember right, 3.5 hours were required for this activity. So we tried a lot to organize the agenda of the workshop in order to fit into this time. We end up that it was not a lot. People wanted more time to negotiate, but it was a good start for the negotiations and the discussions. So thank you from my side.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sandy, for lovely insights and all the practical aspects that you put into this presentation from your experience in implementing the tools but also adapting the tools to the local context. Very, very interesting from my side. And we have 3 questions, and can I ask Hava to come in, please, to try to reply to them. One very interesting, how especially I think Hava, for you, when discussing scenarios and considering the changes to make the community more resilient, do you also consider the best case scenario and how to guarantee we get there, similarly to what Rob Hopkins, transition co-creator, does in his imagination workshops? Very interesting and very provocative question. Thank you for it.
Yeah, thank you for your question. One of the main goal we were following in developing our tool was to include more and more insights from the citizens in generating the future pathways. And then after the workshops, when we evaluate them, we decided to find, based on the criteria, again, evaluation criteria defined by the citizens, to find one of them is the most important, which one is more feasible, and evaluate that scenario from different aspects to finally suggest it to and recommend it to the policymakers, the ones who are responsible for decision making and policy making in the region, in the municipality, in the city, to know what general people think about the future of the society in the climate aspects, what they want to have, to expect them to consider in the process of the decision making, to fill the gap between politicians and also public, to know each other better, to know each other expectation about the future, to have a more resilient society for future, to be more livable for all the people. And this kind of participatory tools like scenario building workshops help us to fill this gap between these two most important groups in the society. I think citizen is very important. We need to consider them, their opinions, their beliefs, their feelings about the future, and consider and include them, integrate them in our decision-making process, and such a kind of to help us meaningfully and in a structured way to involve them and give them this feeling that they are important, their opinions be considered by politicians, and their voices are heard by them.
Thank you very much. I think there is more to discuss around the question. I think the time doesn't allow us, but I'm very intrigued about this. Exactly like you are saying, Hava, it is a gap sometimes. Between the citizens and sometimes the political, let's say, level and policymakers, and how to fill in the gap and how these tools can help filling the gap, and what can we do even more to fill in the gap and bring the main actors together at the table. And I think what Sandy did in Chios, and what you showed that it has been done in Vilnius too, shows that it is a lot of work to be done. And the question to Sandy at this moment: how do you ensure that this scenario prioritization doesn't feel only as a technical exercise? You put a lot of effort, as you explained, Sandy, in Chios to create an agenda, that addresses everybody's expectations and needs, but in the same time preserves or respects the methodology proposed by VOP. How do you create this, implement this tool without not being a technical exercise, but being really truly an accessible and inclusive method to engage the citizens?
This was the difficult part when organizing a workshop. We tried not to provide with too many details about the tools to the participants, just to follow the guidelines in order to organize the discussions. And what we explained to the participants, in order not to think that this process was a technical or a necessary part for a project, was that these scenarios and the key factors, which actually are the main issues that the island faces, that we will discuss them with the local authorities. People from the local authorities participated in the workshop, so this was very good because they received the feedback from the participants. So finally, I wouldn't call it a technical exercise, but a beautiful deliberation of citizens with local authorities.
Great, thank you very much. I will now invite Julia and Ingrida also to put the cameras on and open the microphones, because it is a question here that I think probably addresses everybody's experience in CLIMAS and in the work done in CLIMAS, because it's when building the scenarios with citizens, basically, how do you balance the expert knowledge with the local perspectives? Basically, how to adapt a tool like presented by Hava, to local experience, and balance also with expert knowledge, like we discussed earlier or in the previous, let's say, training session, and with local perspectives. And I'm looking here, Julia, at citizens science projects, organized locally. To what extent this could be an effort for you as an organizers, of this type of activities. Who wants 30 seconds, please? Ingrida, let's start with you.
I think it would take effort. it would take effort. It has to be adapted to the local context, and I cannot really like say how much effort it would take, but I think it's worth. And when you start, then you also will understand. But I think it's needed. Otherwise, you just like forecasting the stars.
Yeah,
But it's
great.
better to be with the local context.
Yes, excellent. Thank you very much. The tools are useful, but grounded in the local context. Sandy, I presume that is the same.
Well, as I said before, it is very important to begin with citizens' perspective. And given that knowledge, to provide experts knowledge as enhanced to the deliberation procedure.
Great. Hava, 30 seconds.
The same as Sandy said, for the whole process of scenario building, workshop, and prioritization by leading by participants. We involve them all the process, and the main reason was that to inform them how to think about the future, how to have a long-term thinking about the future, and also inform them about how to what extent their role is important for future, how they are critical, and also in our tool we try to guide them in a very practical manner, just to guide them think on the most important sides, and by this way we can help them to see on what aspects they should focus, and how, and also teach them how to be very valuable
Thank you.
in their society for future. Yeah.
Thank you, Hava. Julia, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add that my colleagues have been explaining. So I think that the local knowledge is super important, and we have to contextualize all things that we are doing, and also taking consideration experts in the local context too. So to that maybe know more about what is happening there.
Thank you. And now, because this is a training and we want to share this knowledge to others, to what extent, again, 10 seconds this time, not 30 seconds, 10 seconds this time, to what extent do you think that this local context and local insights, could be taken over at European level, and not only, what is the transferability part of it, how much, what part of your work can be transferred, to other, let's say, cities beyond CLIMAS at European level, and I dare to say beyond. We have in audience people from not from Europe. Yeah. Hava, I'll start with you this time.
Yeah. To address your question, I think it's more important we focus on the role of this kind of mini publics like climate assemblies, citizen assemblies, living labs, to what extent they are important. And also when we highlight the role of this kind of mini publics, this kind of platforms, then we, by embedding such a kind of participatory tools in the structure of this kind of mini publics or platform, we can be sure that okay, we consider the opinions of the public, and then this kind of platform should be more active, and they strengthen the connection with the relevant organization to send the voice of the people to them, and opinions of the people, citizens to them. And that's the only thing I can say about the role of the climate assemblies as an example.
Very interesting, and very interesting to see how, in Europe it is a diverse experience in engaging with the citizens, and and it will be very interesting how countries that do not have this type of experience can take on these ones. Sandy, your 10 seconds.
I think that dissemination activities, public dissemination activities, help a lot in this process. And as Grida said before, knowledge provision on future assemblies, nearby assemblies, is very important. It's the legacy of the CLIMAS project to the citizens.
Thank you, Sandy, very much for your deed. Julia.
Yes, I think scaling up citizen science in general is quite complex because it depends a lot of the local context, the challenges, the problematic that you have in your area. But this problematic maybe I shared for other places. So it's complicated sometimes to scale up a project at European level, for instance, but it's not difficult to transfer the knowledge that you can get in one place to another place with similarities, etc. No, so there are like these two levels. No, the one of scale up citizen science at European. So it's an issue. So it's something that is discussed a lot in the citizen science community. But again, the knowledge that we get in one place maybe is not so you can transfer this knowledge quite easy, or this activity is quite easy and adapt a little bit to different realities.
Yeah, I think the key word there is adapt. I always think that anything that is created in this type of projects has to be adapted to the local, let's say, context and the local, let's say, experiences and so on. Ingrida, the CLIMAS baby.
Yeah, I think that knowledge can be actually fully and completely transferred. And with the filter of local context, but not like filter everything out, because then it again you narrow too much down. But leave some touches, but with to give the broader, wider scope, transfer the knowledge and a little bit contextualize to the local context.
Okay, thank you very much, all of you. I'll give you my 10 seconds. People, at local level make the difference. So a person like Ingrida, it's very important to be a promoter of this type of experiences. We need experienced expert like Hava and Julia with creating the tools, and Sandy, creating different methodologies and expert implementation of these tools and methodologies. Thank you very much for your presence, and I won't finish before I do a bit of marketing. Tomorrow we'll have a third and last, let's say, training session of CLIMAS. Please join us tomorrow, and of course there will be other, let's say, interesting activities that CLIMAS prepares until its end. But tomorrow we'll talk about monitoring and follow-up of climate assembly, and I presume that we'll see again Sandy tomorrow, talking about her experience in doing this. And once again, thank you very much for your participation. And before I thank you all, the panelists, once again for excellent presentations and insights provided to the audience, I would like to thank my colleagues, Yolanda in particular, that has been creating this program and is behind the scene, and you do not see her, but she is the brain and heart of these sessions, training sessions, and to my colleagues from Deep Blue that are promoting actively the sessions. Thank you very much, and see you tomorrow.